Hello, reader. Thank you for joining. This is the Christian Readers Community Podcast. On this podcast, we will be discussing with fellow readers and authors. You will never lack for good conversations and recommendations of Christian books. If you're a lover of literary works, fiction and non-fiction, then you have made the right stop here. Thank you for joining us again, and I hope you listen to every podcast that we get to put out for you. Thank you.
Earl Morrison, leadership expert, author, mentor, and owner of Leading and Learning with Character, believes that if you better your mindset, you better your life. With over 29 years of leadership and organizational experience, he offers consulting, classes, and mentoring. His passion lies in building others up. As a retired chief of police and former assistant director of the Council of Law Enforcement Education and Training, he has skills and insights into leadership and organizational development that many of his clients praise. He has first-hand experience working in toxic environments that feature lack of growth, poor communication, negative mindsets, and other issues that hold people back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Christian Readers Community, or welcome back if you've been following us. So today I have with me another author, and I'm so excited for you to hear from him. And from his biography, I'm sure you know that there will be so much stored in this episode for you. So without wasting much time, let me allow you to hear his voice. Welcome to the show, Earl Morrison.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So I want to say something before we start. You, according to your biography, you are a retired police chief.
Yes, ma'am.
My dad is also a retired police officer.
That's cool.
Thank you. And my younger sister is actually following in his footsteps, because she's currently a police officer as well. So I'm so excited to speak to you because I'm getting to interview someone who did what my dad did. So without wasting much time, let's talk about leading and learning with character. Tell me, what is it all about?
So it really came about it's 7 years ago now. Just last week we hit our 7-year anniversary mark. And so as a police officer, and you can imagine you're kind of from a police family, that a lot of times when we get in that business, we want to move up in an organization. And my ultimate goal was to be a police chief. And so, that was recognized back in 2014. And so, when that's your goal, and whatever goal you have, when you achieve it, you feel like, hey, we've kind of done a lot of stuff. We're reaching some of our goals. And then in just a short 2.5 years later, I found myself out of that job. Now, a lot of that, if anybody that's been in public service, politics can play a big role in people's tenure. And just because you're out of a job doesn't mean you really did anything wrong. It just means sometimes that the politics are not lining up, and either you need a change or they want one. And so I found myself out of that dream job, trying to figure out what's next. What is God doing? What am I supposed to do? I just had my dream job and now I don't have it. And so in it, I needed a way to learn from the whole situation and kind of heal from the whole situation. And if you know anybody that's a writer that writes, even when they write fiction, there's a healing process in the writing. And when you write that's really about your real life experiences or someone else's, it's even more so of a healing process. And so I wrote my first book, Leadership Lessons Learned. And while we were writing that, my wife and I were trying to figure out, okay, if someone's not a reader, they don't get the book in front of them, how else can I take this and move this forward and help somebody else that may have experienced some of the same things that I have, that may be dealing with how do they move forward? How do they get through some struggles? How do they overcome failures? And so that's where Leading and Learning with Character came from. It was really, founded out of trying to heal from that process and learn from it. And, for me, it's like, okay, you're trying to figure out, what do we call a business when you want to touch people and reach people? And so for me, it was like, I always want everybody to understand that no matter how far up you get in an organization or how low you are in an organization, you're a leader. Okay. All of us are at least a leader of one. We're a leader of ourselves. And so if I can continue to learn as I lead, then I'm going to be helping other people. And so that's where leading and learning with character came from.
So you're actually involved in, helping people out of a toxic work environment. What is that situation that you want to get people out of? What is that toxic work environment that you'd like to get people? Give us a practical example of that.
So the easiest one is our attitude. I mean, how often do you deal with people that have a negative attitude? And how often do we work in environments where we go in there and people just seem to have a negative attitude toward their coworkers, toward their families, toward the people that they have to go out there and serve. And so it's the big piece there is that one of the first things is why I tell everybody is that I can't fix your attitude, but I can fix mine. But if I fix mine and I show you a different example and a different avenue to go, then you're more likely to take that because I've shown you something different and I've shown you something positive. And so the attitude is the biggest one because it's also the easiest one for us to blame on everybody else. If it's negative and it's junk, then I'm going to blame it on you or somebody else that I can point a finger at. And the reality of that is we should be looking in the mirror and really finding out that the attitude issue is the person looking back at you in the mirror. And so you have to make some changes. You have to be intentional. You have to be disciplined. You've got to put positive stuff in. And if you put positive stuff in, positive stuff will come out. You put junk in, that's what's going to come out.
So there's this scenario I would like to give you, and I'd like to know what you have to say about it. So in your case, you had to retire, right? And so we have someone in your shoes, but the person is thinking, I can't take the highway you took. I won't be able to do this because I have a lot of responsibility on me right now. And not saying you didn't have any responsibility when you quit or when you retired, rather. Not saying it, but you were able to, because you wanted something else and you were able to, think, okay, what does God want me to do? So we have a scenario like this, and this person is thinking, well, I can't do this because I think my own case is special. And because the person is like, okay, my boss is toxic, and no matter what I do, I can't seem to please him or her. So, and I have so many responsibilities. Families are depending on me. I'm the single soul winner. So I'm the single breadwinner of my family. And my boss, there's no one can please my boss, no matter how much they try. What would you say to this person? Because this person is probably trying to be positive at his workplace rather, but the boss is making it a difficult task for him.
So the first thing I would tell them is one, like I told you, do a little self-reflection to make sure that you're not causing some of those issues to be there. The second thing I would tell them is to make sure that they find a mentor that's going to help them through some of those struggles. Now, that mentor is going to tell them what they need to hear. They're not always just going to tell them that they're right and that they're fantastic. But those are some ways that they can do that. And then there's a module that I talk about. There's a topic that I teach on. It's called Stay Well or Leave Well. That every person out there is going to, at some point, come to where they have to make a decision. Do I stay in that organization with a toxic boss, with toxic employees, or do I go somewhere else? Now, every single person has to analyze the pros and cons, but I always say, if you stay, you've got to find ways to be part of the solution. So you've got to find ways to at least make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do, so that when the toxic boss does the things that they do, it doesn't affect you the same way. Now, the other thing that I will tell you, and anybody that's listening, is that the better you become at having that positive attitude, of having the right mindset, it not letting the negative creep in, the better example you're going to set for others to follow. And so you may find yourself where you have to make that decision and say, you know what, I have given every effort that I can. I can't stay here, but maybe I need to go somewhere else. And I can tell you this, that in some of those difficulties, if we put our faith and our trust in God, He will lead us to the right place, but He will also give us the strength and the courage and everything else that we need if we stay. But I'm just telling everybody, the thing that you got to get is that you have to stay positive, and you have to stay disciplined, and you have to stay focused on keeping yourself, mind, body, and soul healthy. Because when people see that, that gives them hope, and maybe they can make some changes. It's kind of like we always tell everybody, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Well, set the example that you would want others to emulate, because people are watching us regardless of whether we're doing it well or we're doing it very poorly. So my thing is that I always wanted to set the example that was positive. And then if I realized, or if the organization realized that they couldn't do that with me there, then I needed to be willing to say, okay, then it's time to go somewhere else. And I need to do that with my character intact. I need to do that with my legacy intact, and go find the place that I'm supposed to be.
You mentioned God, involving God or asking for His help. So how do you blend leading and learning with character and God's involvement?
Well, so everything that I do is based on godly principles, it's based on the Bible, it's based on my relationship, it's based on my faith. And so in writing the book, and when I teach and when I talk in certain realms, I'm careful, because I know that everyone doesn't understand that, but I need everyone to understand that that's where my base comes from. And so I don't shy away from that. I tell people that, and I tell them that I may mention it. And if we get in a discussion that's more in depth, I'm okay with that, as long as other people are. But I think it's very important that we don't hide from it. I may not push it in every venue, because, sometimes it's accepted and sometimes it's not. I utilize it the way God kind of directs me to and allows the situation to go. So I just say, you don't shy away from it. And I just tell everybody up front that everything that my business is based on, every class that I teach, every mentoring session that I have, every book that I have written and that I will continue to write, is all based on godly principles. It's based on stuff in the Bible. It's based on my relationship with God. It's based on my life and how I've processed through a lot of the godly principles.
So where will someone be able to find your book? Say if they want to get this book to learn from it.
So I have them on my website. You can go on earlmorrison.com, and you can go under our resources, and I have actually 3 books there. You can find the first one, Leadership Lessons 1, that we've been discussing, and then I have a Mentoring for Life book that talks about the mentoring aspect of things that you've heard me mention. It's kind of a book that walks people through how to find a mentor, and if you want to create a mentoring program within your organization, kind of how to do that. And then my last book that I have listed on there that we just published in January is a devotional that's called Jumpstart Your Leadership and Spiritual Growth. And it's a daily walk, 119 days through the leadership principles, but tying them into the spiritual aspect of things, because really you can't do one without the other. I'm also on Barnes & Noble and Amazon, that you can get them there. We'd like to send people to our website because you get to see the other things that we offer. But they are available in all those locations.
Would you mind reading an excerpt from your book?
Sure. Do you have any certain topic
No,
you'd like?
I'll leave that to you.
All right, here's one from Leadership Lessons Learned, and it's basically lesson 10. And it says, surround yourself with positive people that will mentor, guide, motivate, and hold you accountable to do things honorably. And I'll just read you a bit of it, and then we can, go from there. It's like, for me, this concept is one that I found was very difficult over the years. Surrounding yourself with people to help you may be perfectly natural for some, but for me, it was extremely hard. I grew up moving around because of my dad's work, so I had an issue with that. I constantly had to meet new friends and people, and that's not the easiest task for an introvert, okay, who was taught to be seen and not heard, and some of us grew up in that era. Over the years, I found it difficult to really open up and get to know someone and allow them to know me. Okay? I grew up traveling all over the United States due to my dad's work. So when I entered law enforcement and I started working and interacting with other people in a greater variety of people, it really solidified my distrust for others because of how I had grown up, and you're always a new person, you're always going into new places, and so when I started finding it difficult to interact and deal with people, okay, I knew that as I progressed in my career, I knew that if I wanted to be doing things well, I began then to learn just how important it was to establish a trust circle, okay, and how important it was to develop my own leadership. And so for many years, I stumbled my way through relying on my own ability, as a sole proprietor of my understanding and growing my leadership capabilities. I believe that I alone was responsible for mentoring, developing, motivating, accountability. That's when I realized that I needed help.
Oh, wow. This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Earl. I've been able to learn so much about leading and learning with character. And I do hope our listeners had also, taken some key important things from everything you've said. Thank you so, so much for coming. And I hope that when I invite you to come again.
Oh, I would love to come again. I always say, hey, look, if you have that thought, I'm willing to come whenever you want me to.
Sure. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, I hope you've been able to learn and enjoy this episode, and I hope you've been able to take something very important. I mean, this is why I love this, because I learn a lot when speaking with people. I like to pick people's brain and learn from get to learn from their experiences and from what they do. And I hope it's also the same for you. And if you'd like to check out his books, please go to Amazon, or you can go to his website at earlmorrison.com. You can also check it out. Check the link at the description section. Then you can go through it and visit his website. And until I come your way again next time, this is where I'll be drawing the curtain, as the old saying goes. See you, and I'm saying stay safe, stay blessed, and bye-bye, everyone.